morning, everyone, and thanks for joining the Clallam EDC Coffee Chat, Coffee with Colleen. Today we have on Dawn Crawford, who is the county's Director of Parks, Fair, and Facilities. And he's going to talk to us about the upcoming county fair, the Parks Master Plan, and just some realities with staffing and budgets and the strategic marketing that they're working on. So a couple of housekeeping items, if you'll keep yourself on mute so we don't inadvertently pick up background noise at your house or office, that would be great. And we are recording this. It'll be up on our website later today if you want to share it with friends. And then lastly, if you want to ask Dawn any questions, please feel free to raise your hand, or alternatively, if you want to just have me ask your question, you can put it in the chat. So Dawn, do you have any slides?
I do. I have a PowerPoint.
Okay, terrific. So I have done the multiple participants sharing, so you can go ahead and take it away. And once again, thanks so much, Dawn, for joining us.
Yeah. So we're Clallam County Parks, Fair, and Facilities. We're a little department with approximately 21 full-time personnel. And then we have as many as 5 or 6 up to 8 seasonal personnel. Those seasonals work about 4 months a year. We do everything from manage the parks. We are responsible for the annual county fair and the fairgrounds. They are not the same thing. And then all the facilities, so the courthouse, HHS, we take care of the Veterans Center, and a number of other little buildings in the county. So we have to be nimble. So I'm going to start off talking about parks. Long time ago, the mission was established: quality parks for people. We have about 780 acres of parkland and 21 parks. In there, we have 2 campgrounds and a resident camp, Camp David Jr., that most of you have at least heard of. We have 5 shallow draft saltwater boat ramps and 1 freshwater boat ramp out at Lake Pleasant in Beaver. We have approximately 10 Juan de Fuca beach access points and 6 freshwater access points. Most of the freshwater, besides Lake Pleasant and the Quileute River, is on the Dungeness in several places. For those of you who are been paying attention to the Dungeness off-channel reservoir, that's a mouthful. There is 400 acres total, and so the county parks are going to be bringing before the Board of County Commissioners a resolution to formally adopt the Dungeness River Trails Park, which is approximately 300 acres and will surround the 100 acres where the off-channel reservoir is. That'll also give us an additional freshwater access to the Dungeness. We have in our staff, we have 6.5 full-time equivalents and up to 5 seasonal park aides just handling parks. So that's our camp managers, our seasonal camp ranger at Camp David Jr. We have 2, we call them day use specialists. So they take care of all their regular day use parks. One goes east, one goes west. And then we also have access to an additional 6 facilities personnel who, primarily do facilities maintenance, but when we need something done that's more facilities related, we can lean on them. Kind of the reason why this is a little muddy as far as where our staff's assigned is that the county parks and facilities share a single operations and maintenance budget. There is a separate budget that we manage for the fairgrounds, but facilities and parks to this point have always had one budget. Our budget annually is approximately 2.4 million. Over the last 10 years, it has increased on an average of about 5% a year. And then our staffing has increased about 25% in that same 10-year horizon. But a little note is that we're back to where we were staffing wise in 2010. As many of you know, during the economic emergency we had in the late tens, that the county was really hit by. It's taken us about 10 years to get back where we were back then. Here's just a bar chart that illustrates the correlation between staffing and our O&M budget. A question I get asked a lot is, how do you determine what the appropriate budget and staffing standards are for your parks? It is one of those things that's nigh to impossible to come to a specific quantifiable number, because when you use national averages, they're comparing us to urban county parks that have, formal, athletic fields and playgrounds, and, what you think of, like Central Park, they're formal parks that have landscapes and such. The national average for staffing per 1,000 residents is 8.3. Clallam County is at roughly 1. We're a little less than 1, but for the sake of this conversation, it's about 1 full-time employee per 1,000 residents. The average park acreage per individual nationwide is 10.4 acres per resident. And then Clallam County is at 9.3.
So Don, just to
Yeah.
clarify, is that just for comparing Clallam County parks to county parks across the nation? Or are you
Yes.
including state and others? No.
No,
Just
it's counties, yeah.
Got it.
So like I said before, it's very, very difficult to budget, to make a comparison, an accurate comparison, because there are so many variables, and I'll talk about those in a second. But qualitatively, most of the feedback we get is very positive, especially in our park cleanliness and the lack of fee-based access to our parks. Yes, we charge for our campgrounds and we charge for Camp David Jr., but all of our beach accesses, all of our county parks are free. And the county residents really, really appreciate that. I will say, just a little anecdote, we get people that will drive to the Clallam County parks to use our restroom facilities, whatever they are, instead of going like to the state parks or the ONP, because our bathrooms are most of the time way cleaner. So our team takes great pride in having clean, welcoming restrooms, be that a vault restroom or full functioning restroom that's hooked up to facilities. We are primarily a passive recreation parks department, which means most of our parks are designed around hiking, biking, horseback riding, and personal watercraft, kayaking, canoeing, paddle boards, that kind of thing. Although we do have some shallow draft saltwater beach access for smaller boats. Those kinds of passive recreation parks require a whole lot different staffing than a formal park with, landscaping that's got to be mowed and formal athletic fields. And so, we have to do our best to come up with what we think adequate staffing and adequate budget is. And I believe we're doing a good job. Not as well as some people believe, but I believe that you can go to a park in our county and enjoy the out of doors and do the things you want. And know that it's going to be generally very clean and accessible. The other thing that kind of impacts budget is recreation. Most of the time they say parks and recreation. Recreation is programming. We don't program in this county for parks. But what we do, and we do it pretty well, is partnering with organizations that do programming recreation. So marathons and ultra marathons and 5Ks and 10Ks, horseback riding events. All of those are done and programmed by partner organizations. And so we believe our residents are not missing out. There's always room for greater efficiencies. But I do want to state that a lot of time when people think of inefficiencies in the public sector, what they're really saying is that there are certain things that we have to do in the public sector that you wouldn't have to do in the private sector. And in our case, and in most cases, our inefficiencies in those areas have to do with compliance or furtherance of mandates that are out of our control. Just one quick example, we had a Washington State Department of Agriculture grant to renovate our dog barn at the county fairgrounds. We had to have a cultural analysis done to make sure that we weren't going to impact any archaeological or cultural treasures in the fairgrounds. The thing is none of our project actually went into the ground. It was replacing a roof, putting new gutters on, redoing some stuff inside. And so that added time, but it's all in compliance with state mandates. And I'm not saying those are wrong. I'm just saying that adds up to inefficiency. We are working very diligently to do more with less. And the next two bullet items are just off the top of my head when I was putting this together. We are in the final stages of implementing self-pay kiosks at our campgrounds. So now campers have the option of getting online and doing the standard 7-day, up to 7-day reservation for camping, or we have about half of our campsites that you can show up day of, first come, first serve, and pay your money and use that site. What we've done in the past is when you showed up for those first come, first serve sites, you had to pay cash, and cash requires all kinds of labor. We have to collect the cash, reconcile the cash, and there's a lot of risk associated with cash. So these automated self-pay kiosks are making us more compliant with risk and state cash handling policies, but it also reduces the amount of time my camp managers are dealing with money. In the middle of the season, that can be 15 or 20 hours a week in some cases of counting cash. So that's one thing. We are also, we're changing our specifications a little bit in some of our materials. It costs a little more to put on metal roofs, but metal roofs last 50 to 60 years and asphalt roofs don't. So, you know, the little more we spend on things like a metal roof, you know, it stretches out our capital requirements. We're doing a lot of LED conversions. And then some of our sites, we have facilities that we've had to shut down in the wintertime because they're not weatherproof. So we're insulating those buildings so that we can keep facilities open all year round, and we don't have to we don't have to shut them down and blow out lines and things in the fall and then do the inverse in the spring. Um, some other things we're working on, autonomous lawnmowers. So, you know, the robots. I know this is how Skynet eventually takes over the earth, but there is a lot of good technology. We just got done doing about a month-long project with a manufacturer with a robotic mower out at Salt Creek, and it did a fantastic job and saved my team a bunch of labor. So it's something that we're looking really close at into the future. Some of the other areas, using low pressure steam to control weeds instead of chemical controls. Doesn't cost very much to put in water into a tank and do low pressure steam to cook the weeds. We don't have the compliance requirements for licensing and that kind of stuff. The other thing that we're working on, and this is kind of a pet project of mine, is to introduce goats into some of our noxious weed infestations that we have in areas that the Parks Department is over. It's done very well in other parts of the country and other parts of the world, and the cost per square foot for that work is significantly cheaper. The other thing about goats is that when they consume noxious weeds, their stomachs are made to basically kill off the seeds, so that when they pass through the digestive system, you end up with non-viable weeds. So that's much better than most of our chemical controls, where you kill the plant, but you still have reproductive opportunities for those noxious weeds.
Who knew? It's interesting.
Yeah, it is. And when I mention this, people always, you know, are you sure? Question me. But they've been doing goat weed control on California freeways for decades, and they have found it to really control long-term infestations. Now, there are unintended things that you have to do for goats because they're living animals, and you got to make sure they're fenced in and they have water and stuff. But you know, goats work 12 hours a day, sun up to sundown. They take about a 2-hour break during that 12 hours to ruminate, and then they go right back at it. So it's a really good option. So a big thing the county parks is working on now is updating our parks master plan. It is a requirement of the larger comprehensive plan that the Department of Community Development is working on, but we are separate. But as long as our parks master plan is referenced in that. John Temple was asking about cleaning up feces of goats. Goats create feces about the size of a jelly bean, and so it just creates a compost on the ground, and it dries up and doesn't have much odor. So we're not talking about larger herbivores like cows. They're not making 16-inch cow pies. It's just little BB size fecal matter. So it's actually not a problem. And more importantly, the weed seeds are unviable, so you get that. In the Parks Master Plan that we're updating, we have we have to do it every 10 years to be compliant with the larger comprehensive plan. And It is a 10-year guide. It's strategic to help us manage and enhance recreation opportunities and to plan our capital investments and our priorities. And the other big thing is that you cannot get public sector grants without having a master plan. So if for no other reason, we are doing it so that we are eligible for grants, which in a lot of cases is the lifeblood of our capital needs. The master plan is really focuses on a few strategic questions. What are our strengths in our parks? And then inversely, what are the key areas that we need to improve? How do we meet those community needs now and then, strategically into the future? And where should we focus our, our finite resources, be they, labor, or money or, environmental resources? Excuse me. We have existing, in order to put the master plan together, we have to understand our existing conditions and our baseline analysis. So we have to review all of our existing master plan and all of our studies that we're using now. We have to update our demographics. We have to identify what the trends and the profiles are within those demographics. We're required to do base mapping and spatial analysis. These things change over 10 years. Populations change, populations move. So we have to update those. And then we have to do another inventory and conditions assessment. Things get old and deteriorate. You put in new things. So you've got, brand new things and old things. And in order to strategically plan, you have to know exactly quantitatively what you have, what you're working with. In my opinion, the most important part of this master plan update is the community input. I know the public can oftentimes claim that public agencies are only giving lip service, but I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back, but I am committed to making this happen. And our consultant, Conservation Technics, who's helping us with the plan, has been very understanding that I am willing to go way above and beyond to make sure, short of going to every individual resident's door and knocking on it, that we give everybody in the county, far east, far west, an opportunity to be heard if they wish to. So the first bullet point is focus groups. So, we've got the Backcountry Horsemen of Washington that are really advocates for, equestrian trails, and they do a lot of maintenance for both the feds, the state, and the county. There's, fishermen groups, there's service clubs, all these different organizations that have an interest in parks. So we'll talk to those folks. We're going to do community forums, probably 2 more than what was originally proposed by the consultant. So we're hitting Forks, Clallam Bay, CQ, Port Angeles, Squim, and then we're going to do the Blenheim Miller Peninsula. So we're going far east and far west and everything in between. Areas like Clallam Bay, CQ up there on the northwest coast, they have historically never been involved in these. And we know that there's just there's a smaller population, but we're going to involve them. They actually have a lot of recreation up there, properties, and we need to make sure their voices are heard. We're going to do a lot with social media and promotional materials. Some people, the best way to get a hold of them is, at their computer screen. We are in the midst of a county-wide year-long survey, and there'll be a QR code. There is a QR code in this PowerPoint. that we are doing. We're up to about 1,400 respondents. And the lion's share of them are county residents, although we have gotten a significant number from out of our area, out of our state, and out of the country, and not just Canada. We've gotten them from Europe. So these European tourists that come here have taken advantage of this. We have a Parks Advisory Board, and they have a Parks Master Plan Subcommittee that is ad hoc committee that's focused specifically on updating this master plan. And then, of course, you know, everything starts and ends with the county commissioners, and we all take our direction from them. So the needs analysis and development, we've already kind of talked about this. We need to identify some of the amenity gaps, you know, who needs what. Right now, for example, there is no camping. The county offers no camping on the Northwest coast, but yet we have some properties up there, and so, or parks. So there is an opportunity maybe to provide additional camping of some size. Updating and refining our goals and policies. A lot of that can segue into the UGA, and making sure that what we're doing is in concert with the comprehensive plan. Capital projection, project recommendation. So we know pretty well what needs to be done. Now, as all of you know, things happen. Roads cave in, you know, holes just open up one day, you know, that kind of stuff, acts of God. But generally we know what needs to be done in the next 10 years, and the master plan will help us make plans for that and determine what our capital needs are going to be over the next 10 years, and give us a chance to figure out how those needs are going to be met via all the different funding sources that are out there. And then, you know, then when it's kind of all ties up everything, we take the draft to the Park Advisory Board and get their final input, and then we send it to the BOCC for their review, and from there it's adopted and we're off and going. One thing we are doing in this master plan update that I'm really excited about is we are going to implement a marketing and content strategy plan into our master plan. You know, the Juan de Fuca corridor is you know, has come to fruition, and it's starting to gather speed. How do we attract Canadian visitors? There is a very robust fairs and exhibition season in British Columbia on Vancouver Island, and so we want to partner across the strait to be involved in that, so that we can send our folks up there to go to their fairs and festivals and exhibitions, and get them to come back and do the same in our county. And so the only way we're gonna make the Juan de Fuca corridor really successful is we need to have a marketing and content strategy that allows us to focus on that. This is not typically an element of a master plan, Parks Master Plan, that is done, but we are working with a group that we're hoping to partner with, and to make this happen. And our consultant, Conservation Technics, is very open to this. So there are a lot of opportunities ahead, and we see marketing content strategy with being a big part of that, and I'm really excited. So just continued on this marketing strategy. We just need to have a comprehensive plan for marketing and how we're going to align our marketing and our content with our departmental goals and the county goals. I mean, we're just one element of the county. So the Parks, Fair, and Facilities Department has to make sure that what we're espousing and advocating is in line with what the rest of the county is. And leadership in this county has worked very hard in the last, since I've been here a little over 3 years, but before I even got here, have been working really hard to tear down silos. And I'm sure there's always work to be done, but I have an open door to my colleagues, other department heads and elected officials. And I'm really blessed to have folks that are willing to let me ask stupid questions and in turn let me answer theirs. Communications, the marketing, how do we communicate better? So, community relations, how do we get people to know what's going on in our parks and get them to visit them? How to use them more efficiently, effectively. We need to have, in our department, we need to have a crisis communication plan that is in sync with what the greater county is doing. But oftentimes there are things that just affect parks. And so we need to have a plan in place to communicate in a timely fashion when things do happen. And then well, there's some folks out there that love analytics and reports, but for most of us other folks who don't like analytics and reports, you can't justify your existence and justify the investments you're making and justify your staffing and budget levels without good analytics. And so having a master plan update and having all those elements will allow us to improve our effectiveness and efficiency at generating analytics and reports for our colleagues in government, as well as transparency for the public. The master plan, here's kind of our schedule. I will say that after I put this on here, I realized that there is another one that looks, an updated one that looks similar to this one. The only difference is where it says closeout printing at the lower right hand with the star, that actually gets moved to October, not because of any other purpose rather than I want to under promise and over deliver. I have found with these master plan, comp plan kinds of projects, you've got to have a contingency. And if you have a contingency for an extra couple of months, you probably won't need it. But if you don't plan for it, you'll absolutely will. So being a little bit irrational, we've changed the timeline at the end just to make room for things that may come up. So we talked about the master plan public survey. A number of our parks have these big bulletin boards in them, and the QR code there takes you to the survey that we have online. Like I said, we're up to about a little over 1,400 respondents, and we're getting good information. Good, bad, and ugly. You've got to take your attaboys with your beatings. And so far, most folks have been really fair, even in their constructive criticism. So, county fair. I think I get a little confused because the countdown clock for the public is different than the countdown clock for my department. For my department, we have to really have everything buttoned up by this Saturday. Has to be done. Everything has to be staged, set up, ready to go by this Saturday. But the public won't, the public doesn't show up till next Thursday on the 14th. So this is crunch time for us. In fact, I got laughed at by a couple of my colleagues for doing this presentation right in the middle of go time, but this is a great opportunity. So for those of you who go to the fair, we have a great rodeo, and it has blown up in the last couple of years. The nonprofit Olympic Peninsula Rodeo Association has worked their tails off. They have created a purse that is significant enough to get people to drive out to the far reaches of the state to come to us. And that's the only way you're going to get competitors, because they can hit 3 or 4 rodeos in a weekend, and that's not really feasible for us. But by having a big enough purse and having enough high enough production value, we are able to get over 200 competitors on a 2-day rodeo. And we have this year we have the second highest purse for non-PRCA, the Professional Rodeo Cowboy Association. So those are the big leagues that end up at the National Finals Rodeo in Vegas every year. So for like AAA rodeo, we have the second highest purse. The fair and rodeo in Enumclaw has the highest by a few $1,000, but our folks from the Olympic Peninsula Rodeo Association are really, really pushing the production values, and they're really working to get high quality talent here, some nationally ranked. We are going to be working on a master plan update for the fair. There is not right now, as I understand it, and I've done some research, there is not any regulatory mandate for the fair to have a 5 or 10-year plan. The one we have is from back in the 90s, and we've just been band-aiding it and keep continuing to use it. But we're working on it, and I'm working with the Cooperative Extension to find some funding so we can do a master plan update for the fair. Another big element of the county fair is this year is the 30th annual Pro Logging Show. It started out for many years being a volunteer event, but as the industry has gotten smaller, more condensed, and there's more national players, it's harder and harder to get companies that have their headquarters in Florida to invest the way that that the local industry invested in the past. But we've revitalized it in the last couple of years. Brandon Surguy, he's the head forester for Maryland Ring, and used to be a steel timber sports competitor nationally and worldwide ranked at some point in like 06, 07. He does the production, and I take care of all of the back of house stuff, the fundraising, and we are continuing to keep the spirit of what our show is, which is an invitation only. It's not an open show, and it's a really good showcase. So we've got people coming from 5 Western states, including Alaska, and we have confirmed a competitor from Great Britain, and we're thinking we're going to have one from Scotland. So, and last year and probably this year, we have some nationally ranked timber sports competitors coming. So, our show is smaller than others, but we have invited really good people, and Brandon Surguy has really upped our production values. And the last couple of years, our stands have been full, and we invite you to come. There's too much to talk about at the fair. Here's a QR code that takes you to the website for the county. And you can get all of the information you need, the who, what, where, why, when, and how. Again, the fair starts next Thursday at 9 o'clock in the morning. We have some innovations this year at the fair, and I'm really excited about them. Folks have worked really hard to make this happen, a lot of folks. The beer garden has expanded so that it is open on Sunday afternoon during the time of the demolition derby. So right now, on Friday and Saturday night during the rodeo, the beer garden functions, and then on Sunday during the demo derby, the beer garden is open. And the motivation behind those hasn't been really about money. It's about giving people an honest legal place that they can consume alcohol. Historically, there's been a lot of, and when I say a lot, it's relative, a lot of folks that go out to their cars and tailgate and then come back in, or they're sneaking drinks at the fair. This allows us to have a place that they can legally consume, and it is run by Jaffa. And so they are fantastic at it and very, very compliant. They have us 3 or 4 steps behind the line. It's a great partnership. All of our admission gates this year are accepting credit and debit cards in addition to cash. It has been a challenge for a long time to get connectivity to the point where we could offer credit. We could accept credit cards and debit cards. So last year we did a little silent, quiet rollout at the yellow gates, but this year we are implementing it at all of the gates. So from now on, we'll be able to take debit and credit cards in addition to cash. And as I talked about, and the parks, not dealing with cash is huge, saves tons and tons of time. The fair ends at 9, and in the past, I've had folks reconciling cash until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and they are very efficient and very good at their job. But you're dealing, a lot of small bills, and you've got to, we're the public sector, so everything has to be spot on. So not having the amount of cash is going to be a real boon. We'll be able to refocus that effort somewhere else. The t-shirts this year, you'll be able to pay with debit and credit cards in addition to cash. And you can get those at the fair office. The Kids Day this year, we've worked very, very hard. Angie Bronson, who is our part-time fair professional out there at the fairgrounds, worked hard to get a bunch of visitors to provide free access to their activities from 9 to 3 on Thursday next week. So the bubble machine, and there's a number of other activities that the rest of the week you have to pay to use, but they'll be free during this day. The Kids Day also, I'll skip down there. We also worked very hard with the 811, the call before you dig folks from the state. I'm an acquaintance of the executive director, and he's a great guy. He has sponsored the t-shirts for the kids. So on Thursday, the first 500 kids will get a free fair t-shirt. The only stipulation he has is 811 has to be on the front of the t-shirt, and we can do whatever else we want on the back or on the sleeves. So every kid that comes in, that first 500, will get a free fair t-shirt. We've also, because of the theme this year, believe in the magic of the fair, we're doing a significant pollinator advocacy, and we have a lot of activities on Thursday tied to kids activities tied to pollinator importance and advocacy. So there's a lot of other free give-me's and stuff. So we really get the kids out there if you absolutely can on Thursday. We are starting the rollout of the America's 250th, the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Vern Freakholm, who does George Washington Speaks. He's our local George Washington professional, is going to be at the fair and making several appearances at the opening ceremonies, at the logging show, at the rodeo, and then he's going to be around several hours a day. He won't be there all time because he's wearing a period correct costume. So I don't want a 70-year-old man with 50 pounds of wool walking around if it's 85 degrees. But he'll be there many times, and he's going to be really pushing the America's 250 for next year. Like I said earlier, we have the second largest non-PRCA purse in the state. Approximately 200 cowboys and cowgirls will be there for that. Talked about the 30th annual Pro Logging Show. And then this is really good news. We have the largest number of 4-H and FFA exhibitors in over a decade. So people talk about, pandemic and pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. This is going back a decade before we even knew about COVID. For whatever reason, and I know the reason is because we have great volunteers that work hard, and the cooperative extension's been awesome. We are to the gills with youth exhibitors for all that 4-H and FFA programs. It is really an exciting thing. We did something this year in another innovation at the fair. We spent significant money with a consultant to do social media content. And for the month of July alone, we had 72,000 views on Facebook. Now, I know in the time in the world where content people are talking about millions of hits, this is a drop in the bucket. But for a social media page that had probably less than 10,000 hits last year to go to 72 in the second year has been huge. And that's Facebook alone. That's not Instagram. We have done a lot. So eightfold increase in our hits. Last year, we had about 1,600 Facebook followers. This year, we're over 8,000. So we know that social media content is huge, and we're going to be working through LTAC and the Washington State Tourism and a couple of other entities to really push the content moving forward. Again, we're going to be working with a consultant on social media and marketing so that we have a very strategic plan and have a recipe that we can use for years to come to make sure that we are driving that. And again, another plug for the Wanda Fuca corridor. What we're doing locally has national implications, and we're excited. Another thing we're probably going to do this next year is we're going to join the British Columbia Fairs organization so that we get on their calendar. Already Crab Fest is on their calendar, and they get a significant number of Canadian festival goers. So we're going to be following their lead, and we're really excited about the things that we're doing in social marketing. The high water mark for county fair attendance was in the 90s when they got up to about 45,000. We've been averaging between 27 and 29 for the last decade. we believe this year is going to be a very good year. And if we keep doing some of the really good stuff that we're doing, we believe we can get back to that number. Lastly, before we go to questions, I got to emphasize that the Clallam County Fair is our county's annual family reunion. This county is small population wise, and everyone is usually within 2 degrees of separation from each other. And it's always beautiful to see people. Hey, I haven't seen you, Joe, in a year. What's going on? What's going on with your wife? And their kids are getting together. That happens at the Clallam County Fair. And if for no other reason, it is our county's annual family reunion. And we are so blessed to get to host this, and pray that y'all come out and enjoy yourselves. That's it for my presentation. Colleen, I'm happy to answer questions.
There we go. Well, terrific. Thank you. So we do have some questions in the chat. Let's see. James says, I see duplication with what the lodging tax is doing. Any comment there, Don?
I don't believe we're duplicating. I think we're being supportive and in parallel to what they're doing. It is very important that we continue to communicate and not have silos so that we aren't duplicating. But LTAC has a number of those initiatives they're working on, and we want to dovetail as closely as we can. Today's emphasis was that the Parks, Fair, and Facilities Department is aware of those greater initiatives, and that we are working to be a stakeholder in that.
Okay, great. Pat McCauley says, who is responsible for maintaining the no-name public access parks in the Dungeness, such as the levee on Three Crabs? What about ADA compliance at Three Crabs Park, which has been inaccessible for people with minor mobility issues all summer?
The no-name river access points, I cannot answer that question because I only am directly responsible and have the stewardship for the named parks that are designated county parks. The levee and town road have not been designated a county park, so I would refer any questions to that specifically to the roads department, and they have a web page to that. I know there's discussions going on, but until someone comes to me and says, by the way, you're in charge, and we make it a county park by resolution from the BOCC, there's not much I can answer about those things.
Got it. Thank you. Any other questions for Dawn? Well, we're excited about the county fair coming up. I know that's a really big deal for you guys. And you said that lately we've been getting about 29,000 people attending, but in the 90s it was 45,000 people. So trying to get back to those numbers. Well, you guys do a really great job, and it's such an opportunity for people in our community to come together and enjoy the heritage of Clallam County. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you. It's a real honor to be the steward of this wonderful event, and hopefully we'll see you all out there. And just remember that fairgrounds is available all year long. It doesn't just have to be at the fair. So our connectivity is changing and improving. So if somebody has wanted to use the fairgrounds but hasn't because of connectivity, we're making some really big improvements. So it'll be another option for whatever events or meetings that folks want to have.
Okay, well, terrific. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.